Okay, so here's the PowerPoint number 2 regarding week 6, and we are analyzing literature this week. So I'm going to take you through the assignments for this week first of all, and then we'll go over the elements of your literary analysis essay. So this week you have 3 things due, as usual. This week is a little bit different in that your paper is due this week. In the past, you've had 2 weeks to write your essay, and this week it's going to go really quickly. So you have some reading, you have your St. Martin's Guide, and then you have some short stories that are attached here, and you have a chapter from the Writer's Brief Handbook. For your pre-writing journal, you want to make sure for the 20 points that you're covering these 4 components. Your brainstorming, it's your pre-writing of possibly your topics for your literary analysis essay. As you start developing your ideas, perhaps your thesis will go here, and then your main points to support your thesis. Structuring your essay, how you're going to put it together. A working outline would be good here. And then your rough draft with your smart thinking feedback. Okay, we're not doing peer editing this week. We are doing smart thinking. So please give yourself enough time to submit it to smart thinking. Give them at least 48 hours in order to get your feedback. And keep in mind, a lot of you find difficulty because you don't get your feedback done over the weekend. I'm not sure, but I kind of don't think that they work over the weekend. So please make sure if you have something you need to turn in by Sunday that you didn't just submit it Friday evening in hopes of getting it back in time, because you might not. For 10 points, you're going to post on the discussion board some reviews about the short stories that you're going to read, and then you do have your 100-point literary analysis essay. And just a reminder, I'll talk more about this in a few minutes, but a reminder that you have your grammar journal that you're working on, and this is due during week 8, and by the end of this week, you should have at least 6 entries entered in. You're saving this on a Microsoft Word document, and you're just working little by little, and then you're going to submit the one final document at the very end. And at the end, you should have between 8 and 12 entries in your grammar journal. Okay, so to go over this week a little bit more. For your readings, this is your short story packet here. You need to read 3 of these stories. You have the story of an hour, which I referenced frequently in the other PowerPoint. This is a really short read. It's a good story with a lot of twists and turns that would give you a lot of material to write upon and to think about. You have a few other stories, and these are your links. You'll click on them and then read them. Perhaps you want to print it out so that you can highlight, make notations, take notes on them in case you're going to do your literary analysis on one of those. And then here's where you found our lectures that you're watching. And this is your discussion board. This is where you're going to get your 10 points. You're going to click here, and you're going to choose 2 of these short stories to interpret, and then you're going to write 1 post responding to each of the 2 stories in which you've interpreted the meaning of the story in connection to the characters or setting or plot structure, etc. And if you have any more questions about how to do this, you are directed to look in the St. Martin's Guide, page 475. Okay, then you have your pre-writing journal, and this is where you'll do your journal entries here. This is common practice by now. You should know how to do this. You're very good at it so far. Your literary analysis prompt. This is the essay topic, and here it is. In a 3-page essay, you will analyze 1 or more aspects of one of the short stories from the short story packet. So that means one of these short stories. You'll look at 1 or more aspects of the short stories from the packet. Please focus on 1 story, and you can look at 1 or more aspect, meaning characterization and setting, theme and irony, whatever. You can look at more than 1, but please make sure you don't need to do all of them, and you want to be thorough at the ones that you do look at. You want to tie your analysis directly to the text. This is where you will be doing parenthetical citation. I should see quotes. I should see direct references to the text, and then you can include your works cited of that text at the end of your essay. And you are going to be graded on three features here. Your thesis, that's clear and arguable, how well you support it, and how well you develop your plan for the essay. And again, you do want to use your smart thinking. This is going to be sent by day 5, but I wouldn't do it late in day 5, Friday. I would do it as early in the day or prior to Friday as possible. This is where you're going to upload your essay by the end of the week, and then that's a wrap for this week. I do want to go over the grammar journal just really quick. Once again, it is originally referenced in week 4 and 5, but just to remind you, okay, you are doing 8 to 12 entries. You are picking anything that you want to write about related to grammar. It's always suggested that if you get feedback from the e-structor from Smart Thinking, or feedback from me, or peer editing feedback, you might want to take note of those things and use those as your entries. Perhaps it's grammar related, punctuation related, whatever. You're going to do 4 things for each entry. You're going to give a definition of give your topic of what you're looking at. For example, here, apostrophe use. You'll give a definition, and then you'll explain the definition, like how would you explain this to your friend? What's tricky about it? What's not? You'll give the third thing is an example of how you did it incorrectly or how you had a problem with it. Excuse me. And then the fourth entry is another example with a corrected entry. Okay? So 4 things for each entry, 8 to 12 entries, and this is due in week 8. Okay, so back to the literary analysis essay, looking at the components to get graded for this essay. The first thing is your thesis. You've had a little bit of practice with your thesis already, but I know you don't all love this. The thesis is got to be clear. It's 1 or 2 statements only, and it's got to be something you can defend, that you can argue. It cannot be a fact. It's got to be your opinion that you can defend through references to the literature and backed up with your supporting comments. Okay? It needs to be concise, and your whole entire essay needs to tie back and focus back to proving your thesis. Don't be vague, don't be general, and don't exaggerate things, and don't summarize what the story's about. Okay? It's not factual, it's your perspective. Kind of like a review. You could say the characterization was poorly developed in whatever story, and so it did not lend itself to developing the theme as well as the author should have. And you can give reasons why and what you would have done better. Just an example. How do you create a thesis in your literary analysis? One way is to find the theme and then ask a question about the theme. Like, what is the theme? Is it about, better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all? And then ask a question like, is it really better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all? And you can tie that back into the story of an hour and go from there and talk about, no, it's not better to have loved, because then you live in pain and anguish, and it's better to be free. And you can use examples of how the main character, she was freed and liberated when she lost her love. Okay, your readable plan. This is the plan of how your story unfolds. It's going to start with your thesis. Every paragraph afterward is going to have keywords and phrases that are going to support and tie back to your thesis. Like, for example, and then you have a paragraph, or first of all, and then you have your supporting arguments. So I want to see those transition words in there that cue the reader of where you're going with your points to defend your thesis. Support for the argument. This is the meat and potatoes of your paper, and this is the bulk of your grade. These are all the reasons, supporting examples from the text, your analysis, your interpretation of why the author did something, what you would have done differently, anything like that. If you so choose, you can pull in supporting research. It's not necessary, it's not required for this assignment, but if you feel like you have different sources that can further validate your points, you are welcome to include them, and please make sure you do include them in your works cited page as well. Your rubric is as follows. You're going to have 20% of your grade for your thesis and your solid introductory paragraph. Notice that the 100% excellent category says a clear, arguable thesis. The writer's interpretation is insightful, original, and sophisticated. It moves beyond a class discussion. The writer gives a clear sense of the significance of his or her interpretation and responds directly to the prompt in your thesis. Followed by that is your plan, and that's how the story or how the essay unfolds. How is it organized? Is it easily followed by the reader? Are there transition words? Does it just flow from point A to point B to point C? Just bam, 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 you're supporting your thesis in each paragraph. Make sure that you try to stay in some sort of cohesive order so that you're not jumping all over the place. The support for your argument, that's the big bulk, that's 55% of your grade, and this is how well do you support your thesis statement with evidence from your text, analysis, close reading, evaluations, interpretations, examples, etc. All of those things to back up your point. And then the grammar, you know the drill, so this is just, the MLA format, punctuation, your spelling, your proofreading over and over before you're submitting. And that's about it. So, with that, I will look forward to your questions. As you see them, I'll look in your discussion posts. I'll look for my emails. I'm happy to hear from you. I'm happy to help you. Good luck with your literary analysis. It's not necessarily the easiest, but I'm hoping you won't find it as difficult as your concept essay was.